I moved into this neighborhood expecting peace, a place where I could enjoy my home without trouble. That was before I met the HOA. At first, it was little things, warnings about my trash can placement, reminders about my lawn height. Annoying, but nothing I couldn't handle. Then came the fine. $50,000. For my driveway. I had just finished repaving it using high-quality stone that actually improved the look of my home. But the HOA claimed it did not conform to community standards. Never mind the fact that other houses had similar driveways. Never mind that my property value had just increased because of the renovation. They didn't care. They only cared about control.
I thought it had to be a mistake.
Surely I could appeal this, talk to someone reasonable. But the moment I stepped into that HOA meeting, I knew I was wasting my time. The board sat in a semicircle, the president, Mr. Anderson, leaning back in his chair like a king on a throne. He barely even looked at me as he waved off my concerns. "The rules are clear," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Pay the fine or face further penalties." Further penalties? For what? Fixing my own driveway? I tried to fight it. I gathered pictures of other homes with similar renovations, pointed out the hypocrisy, even got a lawyer involved. The response was always the same. You agreed to HOA regulations when you bought the home. Your appeal has been denied. Failure to comply will result in legal action. I wasn't the only one dealing with this nonsense. My neighbors whispered their own horror stories, outrageous fines for mailbox colors, threats over the type of flowers planted in yards. But no one fought back. They were too scared. The HOA had all the power and they knew it. That's when I started looking into the fine print. If they wanted to play the rules game, I'd play it better. I combed through public records, searching for any loophole, any oversight that could turn the tables. I wasn't sure what I was looking for at first. Maybe something about the HOA's legal authority, maybe a clause they had violated. But what I found was so much better. The HOA didn't actually own the street. It had been left in legal limbo when the developer abandoned the original plans. Instead of transferring ownership to the HOA, the road leading into the neighborhood was technically still city property. And the city, eager to unload maintenance costs, had put it up for sale as a private lot. That was all I needed. I made a few calls, spoke to a lawyer, verified every detail. The sale was legitimate. No one else had even noticed it was up for grabs. So I bought it. I bought the entire street. The only way in or out of the neighborhood. And I didn't tell the HOA a damn thing. The HOA board was in full-blown panic mode. Their authority was slipping through their fingers, and they had no idea how to stop it. The parking fees were just the beginning. Homeowners started questioning why they were paying HOA dues when the board had lost control of the street. People who had been too scared to speak up before were now openly complaining. Mr. Anderson called an emergency meeting. He tried to act like he still had control, but the cracks were showing. "This situation is temporary," he insisted. "We will find a legal way to reverse this." Except there wasn't one. They tried to challenge my ownership in court, but the sale was airtight. Every attempt to overturn it failed. The more they fought, the worse it got for them. Then came the final blow. The HOA relied on its power to keep homeowners in line. But now, people saw a chance to fight back. A petition started circulating. If enough residents voted, the HOA could be dissolved entirely. No more excessive fines. No more ridiculous rules. At first, the board dismissed it as nonsense. They thought people wouldn't have the courage to stand against them. But they underestimated how much everyone hated them. I watched as signatures piled up. Neighbors who had been bullied over the years signed immediately. Families tired of being harassed over minor infractions jumped on board. Even people who had once supported the HOA started to see the writing on the wall. The board members could feel the shift. Their power was hanging by a thread, and they knew it. They started going door to door, trying to convince people not to sign, offering small compromises, promising they would be more reasonable moving forward. It was too late. At the next community vote, the results were overwhelming. The HOA was officially disbanded. The board members were removed from power. Their endless fines, their threats, their fake authority, it was all gone. Mr. Anderson looked like he was about to explode. You think this is a victory? He spat at me. You have no idea what you've done. I smiled. I know exactly what I've done. Without the HOA, homeowners were finally free. No more pointless fees. No more ridiculous restrictions. And as the new owner of the street, I had one final change to make. I announced that all street fees would be waived for the homeowners who had voted against the HOA. The ones who had supported it, they were still subject to the original parking fees. And Mr. Anderson? He got the worst deal of all. With no HOA left to shield him, he had to deal with the same consequences they had forced on others. The fines, the restrictions, the fees. The man who had spent years controlling everyone else was now powerless. And the best part? He couldn't do a thing about it.